Good afternoon, everyone. So we've got some breaking news in the world of absolute insanity right now. So mainstream media are reporting that the Russian air defense is responsible for shooting down a civilian aircraft again. So let's just go straight to the article, and we will share this, and we'll talk about this, and give some explanation and real time commentary for you guys. I will be live later on today. Azerbaijan Airlines flight was downed by Russia, Reuters reports. Reuters news agency is reporting the Azerbaijan Airlines flight that crashed in Kazakhstan yesterday was downed by a Russian air defense system. The report cites 4 unnamed sources in Azerbaijan. We reported earlier that the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said an investigation is underway and it is wrong to speculate before it gives its conclusion. See R923 post. Almost 40 people transcended to beams of light, which happened near the city of Aktau. And then we've also got all of Moscow's airports temporarily closed. Guys, there's something brewing. We all know something's coming and it's going to be huge. I'd like to try and get more information from this article of my friend who lives in Kazakhstan, but they're not a resident there. If that makes any sense to you, some people it will, some people it won't. So this article here, the Russians taking down a civilian aircraft. Sorry, this is not the first time this has happened. Now, historically, if you guys can cast your minds back to when MH17 was downed over, where was it? Over the Donetsk, eastern Ukraine. Initially, the Russians were pointing the finger at everybody else, and there was a brilliant article done by Bellingcat. And the guys at Bellingcat had actually used open source material, open source intelligence, social media videos, geolocated from Google Maps. And it was absolutely fantastic, the whole article that those guys did on, on the downing of MH17. Now, for me, that was a real eye-opener into how Russia manipulates media. And they deny, dispute, discredit, throw false accusations, and it's just absolutely insane. Now, what they said is this was downed, the MH17 was downed by separatists, or it was, they were pointing the finger at anyone. The reality is, if you're a rebel force, if you are a rebel force and you're wanting to fight your government or whatever, you don't buy long-range anti-aircraft systems. That's not what you're investing in. You're invested in small arms, asymmetric warfare, non-conventional warfare, guerrilla warfare. None of these involve using, high-altitude anti-aircraft missiles. The system and I've seen some of, let me see if I can get some of the images up. So some of the images I've seen would be consistent with the Buk missile system. Hang on, who's this? Yeah, so some of the systems and it's not called wounding patterns. What is it if it's on an aircraft? Some of the damage done to this aircraft that's been downed in Azerbaijan. That's been down, the Azerbaijan aircraft that's been down, is consistent with the Buk missile system. Now, I'm not speculating that it is the Buk missile system. I'm giving you guys what I've seen, and it is consistent with that. Now, whether it is or not, I'm not going to speculate. But what I am going to say is that Reuters are reporting now that this was downed by Russian air defense systems. Now, what we need to understand is the Russians have a history of downing civilian aircraft. They do. That's MH17, this Azerbaijan aircraft. And at what point are people just going to start to take notice about, they just can't be trusted. And these conflicts that we're heading towards, we could really see like a global conflict start by accident. And it would start by this sort of accident where, children are in charge of these weapon systems and they don't know how to use them. Only big boys and adults should be in charge of these weapon systems because Shooting down civilian aircraft, it's beyond any, there is no use. Why do you, like, what's the military use for taking down a civilian aircraft? It's zero. It doesn't do anything. You know, of course you can have no, you know, of course you should have no fly zones, and aircraft should, you know, should adhere to that. But what we're seeing here is a perfect example of how these weapon systems in the wrong hands, you know, untrained people, you know, that's all I can put it down to at this point. Again, if this is true, and Reuters are reporting that it's true, so I'll go with that, because, you know, Reuters, Sky News, there's a lot of mainstream media articles now reporting on this, that the Azerbaijan Airlines flight was downed by a Russian air defense system. When you give these systems to people that are untrained and that don't really know how to use them, these are the accidents that happen. Now, if you cast your mind back to the German helicopter, that there was a Russian warship and it fired at a German helicopter. Yes, it was only a signal. It was a signal flare or something. But this is how accidents happen. Literally, you know, you could have had a situation with this German helicopter whereby something had have happened in that chain of command, and the Russians fired at this German helicopter, thinking that it was that they had signal flares or signal smoke or whatever it was. Excuse me. In the, you know, as that munitions, but that chain of command, as it got passed down, it was Chinese whispers. Somebody said something to somebody else, and the guy at the bottom didn't get the information, and they fired actual live ordnance at that helicopter. That helicopter then gets down by a Russian ship. The Germans then sink that Russian ship, and literally in the space of a couple of hours, we have got World War III declared, and it was all done by accident. But as soon as it happens, because you've got this build-up now on both sides, both the Russian side, the NATO side, you know, this build-up's happening, and it's building and building and building. As soon as there's just a little spark, you know, there's too much flammable material on both sides. Now, of course, I'm using that as a metaphor, but, you know, there's been too much of a build-up of munitions, of armor, of personnel, of military equipment on both sides. So this is how quickly these things can happen. And it's all well and good people saying, oh, but the military systems, there's too many checks and balances in place to stop a mistake happening like that. Well, MH17, I can guarantee with 100% certainty that the Russians didn't mean to take. Okay, right. I would like to think that the Russians didn't intentionally take down a civilian aircraft. I would like to think that. I really would, you know. So therefore, it would be an accident. I would say as well, the Russian military or whoever are controlling these anti-aircraft systems didn't mean to take down that, you know, the civilian Azerbaijan Airlines flight. It was an accident. So you can see here that accidents do happen, normally on the Russian side, you know, and all it's going to take is one slight miscalculation from the captain of a ship to tell Yuri, to tell Vadim, to tell Vasnia to put signal flares in the munitions, or to fire signal flares. To Vasnia doesn't get that message, and Vasnia just gets the message to fire at that German helicopter or whatever. You know, he takes the helicopter down, and I'm using this example because it just happened like last month or beginning of this month. You know, and then the Germans or whoever, they see one of their aircraft being shot down by a Russian warship. They then strike the Russian warship. The Russian warship thinks, oh, I only fired signal flares and they fired at me, so I'm going to take down. And literally, this would happen within the space of a couple of hours. By the time mainstream media got a hold of it, we would have 6, you know, Russian ships sunk. We would have aircraft down, and it would just be happening in real time. And guys, listen, I keep saying this: these things happen quickly. And when they happen quickly, there's no chance to stop them, because each military unit now will have rules of engagement in the context of, right, listen, guys, if we get fired at by the Russians, we don't need to ask permission from, I don't know, Keir Starmer or whoever. We don't need to ask permission. Our rules of engagement are, if we're fired upon, we fire back straight away. So each side will understand this. And these accidents happen, guys. accidents happen, and predominantly the Russians have a track history of these accidents happening. Now that comes down to training, it comes down to leadership, it comes down to a whole host of things. But this is what we're seeing right now, guys. Okay, we're seeing children in charge of these systems that shouldn't be there. We're seeing accidents happen. We're seeing these sides become closer and closer. But I want to keep this video short, guys. The breaking news is mainstream media are reporting that the Azerbaijan Airways flight was downed by a Russian air defense system. Guys, absolute insanity in the world. I think when this thing happens, it's going to happen by accident, and it's going to happen really quick. Like I keep saying, we're going to wake up on Monday morning, everything will be fine. Friday afternoon, we'll go to bed thinking, what just happened? Anyway, guys, I'm going to back to grid. I'll get you guys another video later.